I would like to thank TANA leadership for providing this opportunity to create more awareness of these kind of things like Ayurveda and the other things like what we do as part of the TANA Cares activities. And also, I would like to mention a couple of names here. Our President, TANA President J. Talluri Garu, as well as TANA Executive Vice President Anjay Chaudhary Rao Garu, and the Secretary Ravi Potturi Garu, and Treasurer Satish Vemur Garu, who are always behind us to come up with these kind of activities as well as create more awareness in Telugu community as well as the entire Indian community who can help with these kind of awareness Zoom sessions or the webinars. Right here today, we are here with Manju Kolli. She is before I introduce Manju, and Manju is she is a clinical pharmacist by profession, and also she did some degree in Ayurveda. Also, I think she will explain what her background is and what she is going to talk today. And but Ayurveda is, I think we all have a little bit of knowledge about Ayurveda because that's the part of our culture, the Indian or Hindu or Indian culture. Basically, like it came from, I think, our region to the world. Ayurveda, like we all know, but nowadays we are not practicing that much. But based on the books and the materials available, that is the most curing benefits for the life threatening diseases also. So I'm very happy to introduce Manju Kolli to give us some kind of some information about Ayurveda and as well as what she can, where she can help the community for any of the Ayurveda questions or those practices. Okay, thank you, Manju Garu. Thank you for joining, and thanks for taking the time to come on TANA platform to give us some kind of some awareness about Ayurveda. And thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the introduction, Rajagaru. And thank you, entire Tana team, for organizing these kind of events, bringing Ayurveda to the forefront. As you mentioned, definitely Ayurveda is something that is in our blood. It is like our heritage that has been handed over to us from our ancient times, and we carry that legacy. And it is our responsibility to be able to transfer this knowledge to our younger generation as well. And thank you so much for allowing me to share this knowledge that I have acquired within the past few years. And yeah, like you mentioned, I'm a clinical pharmacist and I've done 6 years of Ayurveda study as well. It is extensive study that I've done here and I've done it backwards. I've done my pharmacy in India and I did my Ayurveda here in the West. Even though I've done it backwards, and I'm grateful for all the information that I have acquired, and I'm ready to share that all with you. I will take all the questions that you have at the end. Let's just go over the information that we're going to go over today, and then we're going to take all the questions at the end. I'm going to share my screen. You're able to see my screen?
Yes, Manju.
Okay, all right. So today's topic is mainly going to be about handling common ailments using Ayurveda. As we mentioned, we all know a little bit basics, and with the questions that you're asking tridoshas, doshas. So I understand that most of us have basic knowledge about Ayurveda. So I thought I'll take it a little further and use that knowledge to understand what the common ailments are and how is it addressed using Ayurvedic way, and what is the difference between the common methods that we've been using daily now with allopathy. So what is Ayurveda? I'm just going to give you a brief introduction about it. It is two-word name, Ayurveda, where Ayu means life and Veda means science. It is literally a manual that is given to us. You know, when mankind was suffering from all the ailments at one point, Our ancient scientists, who are our rishis, they cognized, they were meditating upon how can we help humans from these ailments. And when they cognized, when they meditated, they came upon all of this information that they were able to download. And that downloaded information is translated into our Shastras. And that does not mean because it is downloaded, we just have to believe in it. There is real science behind it and there is real logic behind it. So it is a true science and not just a science that is not just a form of medicine that is based upon belief. So that's one important thing I wanted to put forth. And the aim of Ayurveda is not just to keep the healthy people healthy, but also to treat the diseases. That is the most important thing I wanted to put forth as well. So, what is health for most of us? I know I put a big Sanskrit shloka here. Some of us wanted to know the Sanskrit way, so I just put that Sanskrit. It's nothing to be intimidating about. Samadoshaha, samagnischa, samadhatu malakriyaha, prasannatmendriya manaha, swasta iti abhidhiyate. So that's really the definition of health. You know, most of the times when I do webinars or when I talk to people in person and I ask, what does health mean to you? I usually get this answer saying that, absence of disease, absence of pain, absence of discomfort. Anything that is absent is considered as health. But Ayurveda has given a beautiful definition saying that one whose doshas are in balance, doshas are the elements that are responsible for all the functions that are happening inside the body, the movement that is happening, the conversion that is happening in the body, and the stability that is required for this body is maintained by all the three doshas. And keeping balance of that is required. And keeping Agni in balance, which is our digestive fire. Our dhatus must be working at their best potential. The tissues that we have, the plasma, the blood, the muscle, the fat, all of those tissues must be working at their best potential. And whose malas, which means the excretion, must be working in balance as well. And they don't stop there. They also say your soul, senses, and mind must be full of bliss. So this is the big definition, and then we can say that we're healthy. So let's find out a few things how we can maintain this balance and keep health for us. So we spoke about, in the interest of time, I'm going to speak only about few of the things that I described in the definition. But if there are any questions, I can address at the end. The one most important thing I wanted to address about today is balanced Agni, which is our digestive fire. Even Krishna in Bhagavad Gita says, Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva, so that he is present in our body as Agni, and which is also seen in the Western science, that there are all these enzymes that are responsible for converting the raw material that we ingest, right? What is the raw material? The food that we eat must be converted into our tissues. It must be converted into your skin, your plasma, blood, muscle, fat, bones, bone marrow, reproductive juices. For that to happen, optimal quality and quantity of digestive fire is important. What happens if it is more than required? If
Ayurveda.
fire is more than required, what happens? Right? Then instead of it becoming a kitchen fire, because our kitchen fire helps us make food that we can eat, the rice that we have is converted into the cooked rice so we can eat it properly. The raw vegetables are converted into a curry so that we can eat. That's what kitchen fire is used for. But think about wildfire. That wildfire is difficult for us to control. And that's when it is uncontrollable and it translates into ulcers in the body. So if it is more than required, then that is not something that will help us. Again, what happens if it is weak? When it is weak, it will not be able to protect us. This raw material is not completely converted into your tissues. It is an it is like a semi-processed particle. And that semi-processed thing is not becoming your own tissue. What happens then? You're not able to protect yourself from your diseases and viruses. And again, this digestifier is like your security check, allowing people who are supposed to allow and stopping people. If it is not working to its full potential, then it will not be able to stop the diseases and viruses that are potentially able to enter our body. So, maintaining it at the optimal quality is what is required. Now, let's talk about how we do that. I'm going to talk about three main pillars that Ayurveda has mentioned on how to maintain balance. The first pillar is food. As we all know, that is the raw material that is ingested. Always important to eat warm and moist foods. Why? What happens if we eat dry and airy foods, right? Then we're introducing increased air quality and space quality. Then our stomach will become like Arizona, which is dry. If it's dry and the air is moving so much, then there's not stability for the food to be converted. We experience bloating. We experience a lot of undigested symptoms in the body. Now let's think about other scenario where we eat cold foods. If cold foods are consumed very, very cold, then imagine what happens. Imagine our stomach having a weather of Alaska, right? It's super cold, and our body has this hot, warm digestive fire, which is now heating up that cold material that you just ingested and trying to nourish it, trying to digest it, trying to assimilate it. So you're making your digestive fire do double duty. Instead, think about if you can ingest just warm and moist food. Then it's the perfect weather that is present in your abdomen, and you're giving the same type of food. So you're just maintaining the body's normal weather. Your digestive fire is happy, it will assimilate, and your tissues are formed happily, right? And food needs to be cooked fresh. I know we're super busy with so many things that we're doing, but if we have to resort to Instapots, so be it. But cooking fresh food is super important for the prana to be maintained. That fresh prana that is present, you cannot introduce prana into the food when you reheat it. When you reheat it, you're just going to introduce fire into it. A little bit of fire, not the original fire that is present. So food needs to be cooked fresh. And the next thing is you'd have to measure your meal into 4 portions. You eat only 3/4 of your capacity. And out of the 3/4, 2 parts of solid, 1 part liquid. So that way you're having enough gap in your tummy. So the food, the bolus that is there, is able to move and digest properly. So this is the first pillar we need to maintain so that health is maintained. Now let's talk about the second pillar. I don't know why these blue marks came on here, but I'll just bear with it. I'm not a techie person, so I'll just continue with the blue marks. I don't know how that magically appeared here.
I think somebody drew those things. Some kid.
Okay.
I'll try to. I'll try to.
Yeah, no problem, no problem.
Yeah, you can proceed.
Sure. The second pillar that we're going to talk about, which all of us know, that sleep is super important, but it's taken for granted. We always think that 8 hours sleep is good, we'll re-energize, it's weekend, Friday night, we'll just sleep at 2 in the morning and wake up at 10. We're still getting our 8 hours sleep. But remember that there is a lot of subtle digestion that happens in the night, especially between 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. There is a lot of deepest regenerative sleep that is present between 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Remember those pre-COVID times when you were going to work and you work at your office, you come back home, there are janitors that go and clean up the office. and it's fresh when you go back in the morning. That exact phenomena happens inside our body. There are scavengers in the form of hormones, in the form of enzymes that are present in the body that do a lot of subtle digestion. And that subtle digestion magically happens between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. because that's how our body works along with the circadian rhythm. It works according to the external environment that is present. Moon is present and it gives its cooling rays at that time. So the heat that we have absorbed throughout the day in the form of work stress, in the form of radiation, the exposure to screens, anger, spicy food, heat, the external sun, all of this heat that we have acquired throughout the day is subsided by the cooling rays of moon. And we would be depriving our body of that if we do not sleep on time. So I'm taking this time just to explain why it is important that we sleep on time and wake up on time. And it is a second pillar mentioned in Ayurveda. Now, the third pillar, which is also as important as eating good food, having good sleep, is controlling the senses. When we're trying to do something, we're always distracted with so many notifications that go on our phone, something or the other that distracts us, the social media or anything that distracts us, or the binge watching of Netflix shows that we do when we probably have something else important to something productive that we're supposed to do. Again, we have this good intentions that we have to lead a healthy life. We know that we have to exercise. We know that we have to eat well. But this lack of control of our senses, because we become slave to that, that's when we forget what we're supposed to do. So again, this is the third pillar to maintain health, which means it is as important as the other ones to maintain health. So going back to maintaining health, maintaining our doshas in balance, maintaining our dhatus, which is our tissues at their perfect capacity, and maintaining our digestive fire at its optimum level, in a higher level, maintaining these three in balance is important. Now let's get to today's topic of difference between Ayurvedic approach and modern approach for the common ailments. Ayurveda has this approach called a very, very important phenomena that Ayurveda uses, cause and effect principle, karya karana bhava. For anything to happen, for any effect to happen, there is a cause behind it. We're having a Zoom call right now. TANA is the reason behind it. They have pulled it together. All the volunteers have pulled it together. There's a cause behind this effect. For any symptom that we're experiencing inside the body, any imbalance that we're experiencing inside the body, there is a definite cause behind it. Going to the root cause of it, understanding what the cause is the primary way of understanding any imbalance in Ayurveda. However, the modern approach is mainly symptomatic. We're like, okay, well, there's fever, there's body pains, there's cough, so we look at what the symptom is, but seldom do we look at what the causative factor is behind it. And bringing the body back to balance, understanding, okay, this is what is out of balance, let's bring it back to balance. Once we bring it back to balance, naturally, the imbalance that has created will come back to balance. And the herbs that are used are natural. They're mostly plant-based. The herbs that we used here in the United States are completely plant-based, and they are safe to be used and no side effects that are seen. And again, the most important thing also is this is a science that has been introduced to us 5,000 years ago without any new versions. No updates happened whatsoever after that. But with a modern approach, we have so many changes that we have seen with new researches that come, we find new things. We find that the things that we have believed in the past, there are so many new diets that come up. And science keep on innovating itself and keeps changing as well according to the new researches. But on the contrary, Ayurveda has not changed ever since. So those are the biggest differences that I have noticed between Ayurveda and modern approach. Now, let's talk about a few common scenarios that we see. Fever or jwara. When we notice that, there are several things that can lead to it, right? You must have been studying for your test and not slept for a few days in a row, or there's a deadline at work and you did not sleep for a few days in a row and did not eat well. That could have caused fever. Or you're exposed to sun in hot summer. You're trying to tan your body and it's hot summer, you're on beach and you're exposed to extended periods of hot sun. Or it could be because you ate that cold ice cream on a winter night. And because you ate that cold ice cream, all your channels are blocked. And there's fever that you notice that you broke into fever the next morning. All of these different causative factors, you see one common thing, fever. And for all of these things, our magical answer is Tylenol, which is our modern approach where we break fever. Yeah. So how do we break fever? We tell the receptors that are present in the body. These receptors are something that are activated saying, hey, there's something wrong in the body. Let's address it. And that's how our receptors are telling us, let's address it. And it breaks into fever. Now, what we're doing is we're shutting it down, saying, don't alert me. I'm sleeping right now. I don't want to wake up and see what happened, even though my alarm broke. I just want to sleep. So that's the approach that we're taking by suppressing fever instead of understanding what the causative factor is behind it. Ayurveda has given a beautiful protocol. There's hundreds of kalpas, hundreds of herbs and combinations that are given for several different types of causative factors and several different types of symptoms that are given. And they also say there's a beautiful story that they tell how fever is actually given to, fever is noticed in humans. It seems it is because of the Rudrakopa. It seems it is because of Lord Shiva, who was very, very upset at the Daksha Yajna. That's the reason mankind is suffering from fever, and only people who are resorting to any wrong kind of behavior apparently are exposed to these kind of fever. Well, that's the story that's given in the Shastras. But the approach that's given is amazing. They say that you have to fast until you get real hunger. Because what they're doing is they're making your own digestive fire digest all the toxins that are present. And once the digestive fire is kindled, is when you give food again. And they say never ever drink plain water at all at that time. Instead, the opposite we do here is we maintain hydration. We're like, oh, we're losing our fluids. Let's give fruit juices or let's give Gatorade. That's the usual thing that we do. But Ayurveda says never drink plain water. You always have to warm your water, boil your water to half, and that's when you give it. No head baths, no exercises, because your body is already going through a lot. Your body is already suffering. It's emaciated. So you wouldn't want to make your body suffer more. So that's the subtle differences between Ayurveda and modern approach. Here are a few things that you can do when there's fever. Fast until there is hunger. Really, you shouldn't eat anything until there is hunger. You can keep sipping on boiled and cool water. Or there are a few decoctions that can be made out of dry ginger, the shunthi that you have in the house. Shunthi and guduchi, you can make a decoction out of that. And there is a decoction with this shadangodak. This is a combination of 6 herbs that are present in Ayurveda, or chamomile that is present also. So these are all few things few decoctions that can be made, and you keep sipping on this, these can aid with increasing your digestive fire along with removing that accumulated toxins that are present. Once the hunger is back, then you start with introducing rice gruel, adding with little pinches of spices like dry ginger, ajwain, etc. Spices are added. If you're a child or a little bit older person and not able to fast, then you can add like paddy puffed rice, raisins, etc. can be added. Those are the things that you can munch on if you're not able to fast completely. Or if you're a meat eater, you can also consider bone broth. So these are few things that you can do when there is fever to come out of it safely. So what happens is you're completely removing the toxins that are responsible for creating fever. And you don't have to worry about fever coming back again. So this is a beautiful protocol that works almost 100% of the time that I have seen so far. So try it next time. The second one that I wanted to talk about is common cold, or called pratishyaya in Ayurveda. So again, causative factor is extremely important.
No.
Trying to find out if it is because of exposure to cold. Are you exposed to cold? Or is it because of stress based? Or is it because of that undigested food that is present? Instead of just treating the symptoms. Once we know what is happening, then we attack the causative factor, right? Instead of going to the symptoms, we go behind the causative factor. Then steaming with a drop of eucalyptus oil is something that's very, very effective. Focusing on the breath work, you're really making your army strong. Instead of trying to find out the culprit, instead of looking for the culprit, you're making your own army strong so that you're able to fight. Doesn't matter who the invader is. So for that, you would have to build your own capacity, which is focusing on breath work and improving your lung capacity. This is where pranayama comes in place. This is where your yoga comes in place, that you're improving your own capacity. There's something called nasya that is present to clear your nasal passages. These are different kinds of oils that you can instill in your nose that will help increase the passages, increase the airways and the passages. Instead of the decongestants that are used, they mechanically increase the size of the, mechanically improve the pathways. This nasya is able to help you breathe properly. Another thing that you can do is salt and turmeric water gargles also proves very, very effective. Now, the most common thing is allergies. And we tend to, especially during this time of the year, we tend to look at pollen count so much. And then we decide, should we step out of the door or should we not step out of the door? Should we consume milk because I'm allergic to milk? Is grass I'm allergic to? Am I allergic to gluten? So we look at the external factors and we try to blame them. We try to put the blame on them. Oh, that is what I'm allergic to. This is what I'm allergic to. Instead of looking at our own army, why is my army not able to fight against it? Why is somebody else's army completely fine, even though they're exposed to pollen, even though they're exposed to the same kind of milk? So when you introspect and when you look at it yourself, then you will be able to look at the hidden toxins that are present in your blood. Usually what happens here is a lot of inflammatory things that we consume, like tomatoes or anything that is heat in nature, like the sauces that we consume, vinegar, or even yogurt, which is the biggest culprit, or any other fermented products that we use. All of these increase a lot of heat in our body, and they are present as toxins in our blood. Repeated exposure to all of these, then our body is full of these toxins. Now it is in a flight or fight mode. Now it's like any new culprit that comes, any new different thing that comes, it is already on a flight and fight mode. It already wants to fight against it. So, removing these toxins that have been present for a longer time will help us fight against all of this. So, for example, I have this cup right here. It has a capacity, right? So, if we fill it up to the maximum capacity, now pollen comes in the last minute. We are forgetting about all of this that we have filled up our body with. Now pollen comes, and now we're thinking, oh, the water is spilling because of this pollen that just came. So understanding all the causative factors that we have done throughout, maybe in the name of food, the heavy foods that we have consumed, the cold foods that we have consumed, the fried foods, all of those that we've consumed, or sedentary lifestyle comes into picture, or the inflammatory foods that we have spoken about. So these are the things we have to introspect and look at. Maybe these are the causative factors. Let's remove that. And then approach and then look at, are we able to now face the pollen, face the gluten, face milk again, make our army strong. That's the mantra of Ayurveda. So again, the approach is to not worry about the external pollutants. And definitely long-term commitment is needed. It is not a one-stop gap. It's not like giving an antihistamine, because there's this reaction that happens in the body when pollen is, when we're exposed. What we do is we quickly give an antihistamine. We say, body, stop giving me reaction. And we suppress it, we suppress it, we suppress it until it explodes. And we see that in a different part of the body. So let's see, maybe we should take a longer approach. Maybe we should introspect. Maybe we should slow down and understand. So a few things that we need to, that we can follow is address digestion, like we spoke about. Practice nasya. Nasya is really applying 2 drops of this oil. This is called anutailam that you'd get. You apply 2 drops of that into your nostrils. You just put your head, tilt your head back, apply oil into 2 drops into one nostril. Breathe in. There's going to be some mucus that's collected in the throat. Spit it out. Do the same thing to the next nostril. Breathe in. There's going to be mucus that gets collected. Spit it out. That way you're keeping your sinuses clean. And another very, very simple but effective technique is you warm your sesame oil with rock salt in it, rub it on your chest, neck, and face, and steam. Steam with edible camphor and eucalyptus oil. So that helps open up your channels, open up your pores that have been clogged up for a long time. Again, applying that warm sesame oil, you're soaking that area, and when you take that steam, it magically helps. It works as a decongestant, definitely. And consuming half a teaspoon of ginger juice, really the fresh ginger that you get, chop that into pieces and squeeze the juice, squeeze the fresh juice out of that, half a teaspoon. Add 1 teaspoon of honey, and if you are able to get in touch with Sitopaladi Churna, you can, but if not, really just the ginger juice and honey will do the trick. Be careful if you're suffering from ulcers or skin diseases not to consume ginger juice, but if not, you're safe to do that. Gargling with warm water mixed with salt and turmeric is something that you can do. Eating light and warm foods also is another thing that can help you with common colds and allergies. Food poisoning is another important thing. What happens in food poisoning? There's something that our body doesn't like, goes in, it tries to bring it out with vomiting, diarrhea, all of these things. Body tries to get rid of it. We're afraid that we might go into dehydration, and we quickly try to stop the vomiting or diarrhea using the medicines. But really, Ayurveda says support the body and help the toxin get out. Do not stop the vomiting or loose stools at all. Support the body. So how do you support it? give boiled water only to sip. And if you're afraid there's going to be dehydration, you can use your transdermal route. Really, your body, your whole skin can be used to apply certain medications. Actually, milk-based medications are applied all over your body so that your body can absorb that medicines and still be able to function and support, replenish that lost fluids. And all of this approach will also help strengthen your tissues so that when any of this happen next time, your body is able to fight back. So that's the approach instead of stopping. So when you're stopping it, remember that you want the invader, you're trying to keep the invader inside. Then instead of going out in that route, it can do something else in the body. So remember that when you do that next time, when you have to do that next time. I hope you don't have to, but remember this. So what do you do at that time? Dry ginger is actually called, the synonym of dry ginger is Vishwa Bheshaja, which means it's a medicine for everything. Vishwa Bheshaja is medicine. It's a universal medicine. That's what they say. So you must have this dry ginger in the house. So take this 1/4 teaspoon of dry ginger along with 1/4 teaspoon of jaggery so that any undigested food is easily digested with this. You always must sip on boiled and cooled water only. Must. It is, you have to boil it. If possible, you can boil it to half its capacity, right? 1 liter, boil it to half a liter, cool it, and then sip on that. Staying on only rice broths, thin vegetable broths, rest as much possible. You can make a tea with like a teaspoon of cumin, coriander, and fennel in the house and keep sipping on it. So these are the ways that you can support the body go through this situation and still be able to come out without denting anything in any other part of the body. Now, hypercholesterolemia. This is something that we're concerned about. We change our milk to 1%. We remove ghee from our diet. We remove, we add salads to our diet. We do all of these things when we are diagnosed with cholesterol. We're afraid of cholesterol very much. Cholesterol is an important factor that helps our body. But when it is excess, then it coagulates and it forms a plaque inside the arteries, so the blood flow doesn't happen properly, which is a problem, definitely a problem. But instead of addressing it, so what do we do when we give medications to decoagulate that area? Instead of doing that, trying to find out what has caused it. Then we go back and we cut the fat, thinking that fat increases cholesterol. But Ayurveda has described a beautiful term called ama, which is formed, and it is not just because of food. Yes, food is the biggest contributing factor. Understand what kinds of food you're eating. If you're eating incompatible foods, that's what's mentioned in Ayurveda. Example, fruits along with milk, salt with milk, milk and sour things. These are the important things. If you're eating it together, you never eat milk and you don't add a salt, like a teaspoon of salt to it. But if you're adding milk to your curries, which has salt in it already, or if you're drinking milk along with your meal, which has salt in it already. So these are few things. If you're doing it for a longer time, it creates something called ama in the body. That's one thing. Another thing why ama can be created is if you're eating food, you're eating it in an unpleasant manner. The thoughts that you have are not pleasant. You're not eating it in a right way. Tanmana bhunjita is what we call. You have to have a pleasant mind while eating food. But again, not just once. If you're doing it repeatedly, then this phenomena can happen. Or if you're doing, that random diets that we do, we eat for some time and we eat a lot for some time and we don't eat at all. Or we change our food habits. Like we eat one kind of diet one day, Chinese one day, then we move to Indian the other day, then Mexican the other day. So there's so many different foods that we eat. And these must be digested by our digestive fire, right? So these are the different files that we're giving. Like at work, if you're given different kind of work every day, if it's being tossed at you, you give up one day. So that's what happens. That kind of ama is created if we eat this kind of random foods. So there are several things that are mentioned. So looking at what the causative factor is to begin with. And if there is chinta, bhaya, shoka is what they say, the mental aspect also is responsible for this. So again, key is to look at the causative factor. And the last one, oh, sorry, the diabetes or prameha is the most important thing. Indians are very much prevalent today. Diabetes is very much prevalent. And we know that it is either because of the insulin resistance, where the food that we eat is converted into blood sugar. And that blood sugar is not properly converted into, it's not being taken up by liver or muscle to be converted into its energy. So what happens is this sugar then is excess in our blood. So we see that the blood sugar is high. And because it's excess, it needs to be sent out from the body. Our kidneys work hard to send it out from the body, and urination increases. Now, these tissues are not able to get this sugar, it's not able to convert this sugar, and these tissues become weak. That exact phenomena is also mentioned in Ayurveda called prameha. But there, what they say is the lifestyle and the food for years together, not just, it doesn't happen overnight at all. We have to look at how much diet we have been eating, the fried foods that we have been eating, the heavy foods that we've been eating, the sedentary lifestyle. It's very, very important. The afternoon naps we have been taking all the years. We always think that, oh, I'm only 20, I'm only 30, I'll worry about it when I come to 40. But all these years that we have taken our bank balance, we've used up all of this bank balance. We have to then remember remember this analogy. When you have to make milk into curd, you add just a bit of curd to it. And then magically at one point it becomes curd. Once it becomes curd, it's not possible for you to make it milk again. That's what happens with prameha also. It takes some time. It gives us symptoms. It gives us indications. This is happening. Warning. But we do not pay attention to it. That's when we land up in that, and coming back is a little difficult. But there are 20 different types that are mentioned in Ayurveda versus 2 types that are mentioned in the modern approach. But there are individualized herbs that are mentioned for each and every quality that is being exhibited. Urine samples are taken, different symptoms and different causative factors are seen, and they're discussed in Ayurveda. So at the end, I just wanted to say that which one would you want to choose? Definitely when there's a life-threatening emergency, I agree that allopathy is equipped with wonderful diagnosis and surgical procedures and treatment. But if you want to maintain health, if you want to win over chronic conditions and lifestyle changes, it is mandatory that absorbing the Ayurvedic route, inculcating that now. And it is not difficult at all. You do not have to lead a life of a sadhu to be healthy. It is super easy for you to inculcate, just like you're breathing every day, just like you're brushing your teeth every day. Just incorporating that little changes will come a long way. That's all I wanted to discuss. I don't want to bore you too much with a lot of information. I can take questions now.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Manju Garu. Soumya is going to read the questions what we
Sure.
have.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Soumya, please go ahead.
Yes. Okay, Manju, the first question. Is there any Ayurvedic practices that would be helpful for hypothyroidism?
Okay. There are a lot of, so hypothyroidism is definitely your throat chakra. That is, this is where it is affected. And there are a few yoga practices that are mentioned where you can breathe from this. It's called, you constrict your muscles here and then breathe. That's called the Ujjayi breath that you can practice. But really, with hypothyroidism, staying away from inflammatory foods that we were talking about, the tomatoes, the yogurt, the fermented products, the soy sauce, those kind of things are important.
Thank you. What are the inflammatory foods?
The inflammatory foods are anything that increases the heat in your body, which is what we just discussed, the spicy foods. So amla, lavana, and katu are three kinds of tastes that increases inflammation in our body. The fermented products, especially in our vegetables, eggplant, capsicum, are a few things that can increase inflammation in the body. Tomatoes is the biggest culprit as well. And your tamarind, the sour taste tamarind, is also another culprit. You can switch that to amla paste you can make. Getting, from the Indian store, there's frozen amla that is present. You can cook it, make it into a paste, and substitute that with tamarind. And even few nuts, like peanut, is also considered to be inflammatory. Almonds and walnuts are okay, where you can soak and eat about 3 to 4 a day. Other than that, these are the inflammatory foods.
Thank you. What are the Ayurvedic practices that can help indigestion?
The practices that we just mentioned today, eating, the foremost important thing that you have to remember is do not eat because it's time for you to eat. Eat only when you're hungry, and make it a practice that your boss knows what time you get to work every day, and that's when he'll give you work. Just the same way you train your digestive fire that this is the time I'm going to give you food. And really, because with the type of work that we are doing now, 3 meals is more than enough. Just a very, very light breakfast, heavy lunch, and light dinner is the mantra for keeping your working on your indigestion. And sipping on the cumin, coriander, fennel tea that I discussed earlier is also another important thing that you can incorporate.
Thank you. Is there any forum where we can find and consult Ayurvedic doctors in USA?
Yes, you can definitely consult me if you want to. I do online consultation. That's something that I can do. But other than that, if you're looking for someone else close by in your area to visit in person, you can contact me and I'll get you in touch with anybody that I know in the area.
Thank you. Please order of 6 stays. That will be helpful to all.
Definitely. So the first taste, madhura, which is sweet, is important. So we need to start our meal with a sweet taste, never end with a sweet taste, never ending with the desserts. I know it is something that we have used as we've gotten used to after coming to the Western side. But in India, we always start our meal with a sweet. Or I wouldn't say that you have to always eat a sweet in the beginning. Sweet is a sweet taste, which is your grains that you eat. The wheat, the rice, all the grains that you eat is a sweet taste. And then it is amla and lavana, which is with your dals, with your curries, you get that taste. You end with the katu tikta kashaya, which is your spices that you eat, give that taste. And the end, you end with buttermilk, right? The buttermilk has that astringent taste. So that is the order that you have to consume your food in.
Thank you. Are there any Ayurvedic practices for heartburn and acid reflux?
Absolutely, with the heartburn and acid reflux. So what happens there in the heartburn is our our ashaya, our abdomen is coated with yogurt layer. So whatever food we eat, even though we eat sweet foods, it's going to be mixed up with that layer and acid is produced because the acid layer is present already. Imagine a bag which is already rotten, which already is not good, and you add fresh vegetables to it, they get spoiled. That's the kind of phenomena that happens in the when we have acidity. So again, going back, I'll go back to the same thing where you have to look at what is causing it. What kind of foods are you eating? Are you indulging in sour, spicy, and salty tastes? Check on those, reduce those. Increase sweet taste in your diet, which is in the form of grains. I'm not saying increase sweets, but grains in your diet. And add good spices. Good spices are spicy, not spicy to the abdomen, but spicy to your tongue, like your fennel, your turmeric, your hing, your dry ginger. All of these are good spices. Cumin powder, coriander powder. These are things that you have to add to your foods. And maintaining the gap. It is, I don't know how it is propagated that you have to eat every 2 hours and maintain your digestive fire, but eating just 3 meals a day, like we mentioned in the past, is also another important way to help with the acidity as well.
Thank you, Manju. Does oil affect our Agni?
Oil definitely affect our Agni. What kind of oil you eat makes a lot of difference. Ghee is the best oil that is recommended to cook your food. Even if you have to fry your foods, deep fry your foods, ghee is the best one. Just like when you're doing havan, when you're doing your sacrificial fire, ghee is added. Ghee, when you add ghee, fire automatically increases, right? So ghee is the best oil that you can use.
Thank you. I have iron and vitamin B12 deficiency and vitamin D deficiency. Any suggestions?
Again, the reason that is deficient is because our tissues are not able to extract the iron or vitamin B12 or D from the food that we eat. So increasing the type of foods that have that probably will not solve it. Probably solving the underlying undigested food that is present. Remove that first, and following this protocol is going to help you. And
Thank
vitamin
you.
D is something that you can get from, it is low for all of us here. The best thing that you can do is abhyanga, is what we say in Ayurveda, where you apply oil all over your body. Sesame oil is recommended right now in winter. You can warm sesame oil, apply it all over your body, and you can wear clothes that you don't care, and you can expose yourself to sun, and that is what helps improve a lot of vitamin D capacity. And not afternoon sun, but the morning sun is the best.
Any Ayurveda for constipation?
Absolutely, a lot of it. Again, with constipation, a lot of people think that drinking lots of water is a solution for it. But think about a lot of clogging that happened. And because there's a lot of clogging, we're trying to plunge, adding lots of water. But removing this clogging first is the first step that we do. If it is because of clogging, or in other kinds, what we see is there's a lot of dryness that is present. I've seen a lot of people using coffee enemas or regular saline enemas. Because of that, the mucosal layer is completely depleted of that, completely depleted and deprived of good mucus. There's dryness. So it is not possible for the bowel to pass freely. So in all of these situations, when there is dryness, there are few enemas that we do, and you can actually do that yourself as well, if that is the case, if the dryness is the case. There are a few enemas that we recommend that you do yourself at home, or you can get it from an Ayurvedic any Ayurvedic hospital as well. If that's because of dryness, enemas with oil. If it is because of clogging, then giving digestive spices to remove that clogging so that the bowels can flow freely is another thing. Try to soak about a fistful of raisins and figs in the morning and drink. And that should help if there is excessive clogging that is present. But do not increase water intake just to chug that bowels out. that's going to cause other problems.
Thank you, Manju. Can you beat COVID by following these Ayurvedic tips?
There are a lot of instances where we've given these situations. I mean, it depends on what kind of what kind of exposure is present and how difficult it is. We have given few protocols, and that has helped immensely. But I wouldn't want to say that we're all gods and we're able to take care of everything and anything. But it has helped in few instances for sure.
Thank you. Does asthma result in increased hunger throughout the day? Could it be
Yes.
Ayurveda?
Absolutely. In asthma, what happens is there is a lot of increase in air element and space element, which we call the vata dosha, is present. If that air is moving, then that moves the fire that is present, and you feel like there is hunger. It is fake hunger, it is present. So in Ayurveda, what we do is there are so many medicated ghees and medicated oils that we give to bring air back to its normal capacity. It is supposed to be flowing downwards. Instead, it's going upwards. So we give certain digestive spices, certain herbs, certain oils to bring it downwards. The protocol that I was mentioning earlier, where you can apply warm oil with salt and steam, is going to be very, very good when there is an asthma attack.
Thank you. Diet and tips for rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah, rheumatoid arthritis is mostly like an autoimmune disorder where it is because of increased inflammation in the body as well. Reducing, like we spoke in the past, all those inflammatory foods we must reduce. And following diet, not just diet, but the lifestyle also. You have to sleep on time. You have to follow a breathing technique, a pranayama and breathing technique to reduce that increased stress in the body. The chemical constitution has changed in the body. To rewire that chemical constitution that is present, the lifestyle change is also important along with diet, which is less in inflammatory foods. So when I say diet that is less in inflammatory foods, including good grains like good quality rice, I always suggest white rice. I know white rice has been, I don't know why it became a biggest problem for a lot of people, and a lot of people avoid it. But white rice, or there's something called single polished rice that you can use, hand pound rice, you can use that. Or wheat, good quality wheat is something that you can include. That is, and good quality milk also. I know milk is something that is removed for rheumatoid arthritis patients in allopathic world. But if you can get in touch, get a hold of good quality raw milk, which we're lucky we're able to get that here in California. Good quality raw milk, if you can boil it just the way we used to do in India, you can do that. Ghee, good quality ghee, if you're able to get that, incorporate that. Moong dal is something that is very, very good. It is very cooling. Either split moong dal or green whole moong dal is something that you can incorporate. And adding grapes, pomegranates in your as your fruits. Amla, adding amla to your diet is also another important thing.
Thank you. Can you please suggest Ayurvedic practices for good sleep?
Very, very good question. That's very important. So, for good sleep, the most important thing that I say is when you're sleeping, imagine this is your sole of your feet. Do apply oil, either coconut oil or sesame oil, warm coconut oil or warm sesame oil. Rub the soles really well and massage them really well. Put socks to it and take a thick blanket, cover yourself up, and while you're sleeping, focus on your breath, ujjayi breath. While you're breathing, your tummy goes up, breathing out, tummy goes down. Focus on your breath while you're breathing. That really helps. If it is because of a lot of stress, a lot of work that is involved, a lot of mental work that is involved, there's something called pichu that we also recommend in Ayurveda. But do it only if there is no excess mucus in the sinus areas. Again, take the cotton, dip it with coconut oil, and you can apply it on your head, on the top of your head, and tie it with a bandage, and sleep through the night. So that gives you a lot of stability in this area. You're making your feet stable, you're making your head also stable, and that should put you to sleep. Especially, this is only if you're suffering from excessive dryness in the body and there is mental stress, and that is the reason you're not able to sleep, then this should help you.
Thank you, Manju. What foods are to be avoided for eczema?
Again, the same things that we spoke about for rheumatoid arthritis, that is same for eczema as well.
Thank you.
And making sure with eczema, the most important things is you should avoid something called incompatible food combination, like adding milk to your curries. If you're consuming too many bananas, that is something that you should avoid. And citrus fruits, avoid citrus fruits. And adding cereal has salt. Cereal and milk is something that should be avoided. And smoothies, if you're doing milk and fruits together, that must be avoided as well.
Thank you. What's one habit do you suggest that we follow every day to begin with?
To begin with, one thing, if I have to say, that you must all follow is abhyanga. That is one thing that you will benefit throughout. You can wake up in the morning. What I do is I have like a hot plate. As soon as I wake up, while I brush or do other things, I just turn up the hot plate. I have a water bath with oil in it and turn it on. The oil is then heated up. Afterwards, I just apply it all over my body. Then I put whatever clothes, then do my chores, wait for 20 minutes, and then go shower. So that helps you so much with increase in your digestive fire. It will be like your sun protection. It will protect all your tissues inside. It will protect your eyesight. It will help you get away from mental stress. So all of these benefits are given just with applying oil all over your body. So that's one thing that I would ask you to practice if you want to incorporate that. I know I gave a lot of information. I really suggest you not to do all of them at once. It will be overwhelming. But choose one thing or two things that you think can incorporate that can help you.
Thank you, Manju. For kids these days, we are seeing more vitamin deficiencies like iron. What are the best means for them?
Help them get out and work out. That's one thing that have been lacking with kids these days, that they're, especially with COVID days, they're not going out and working out so much. One important thing that I wanted to also mention with kids, especially because we think we want to give nutritious things to kids, and I know pediatricians also recommend, I don't know if there's any pediatricians in the call here, but I know they recommend cheese and paneer for kids. But our kids, especially that are Indian kids, they have our own genes, and they do not have the level of digestive fire that is present for anybody that's born and brought up here. So they're not able to digest that cheese, not able to digest that heavy foods. That stays back. Because it stays back, anything that's given is difficult to assimilate and digest. So giving them whatever foods we ate when we were growing up is good enough. We don't have to give them anything exotic.
Thank you, Manju. Can myopia be treated in Ayurveda? Is there any dietary changes recommended for that?
Yeah, actually, there are a few Ayurvedic doctors that practice especially for eye care. They're in India, and if you want to, I can give you their reference. There are many practices called Netra Basti. There are many Panchakarma techniques also that are done. I personally have not done any of them. I've worked with only one client so far, and it is successful. But I wouldn't say that I have worked with many clients with myopia. But I do know few Vaidyas that have extensive experience in that and have very good experience, very good results that they have seen. Yes.
Thank you. So what are some good foods for different seasons, winter and summer?
Very good question. So winter is when our digestive fire is at its maximum because it is cold outside and our sweat pores are closed. So our fire does not have any place to escape out, which means it is able to digest any heavy foods also. So that is why we have all our festivals during this time, our Christmas, Thanksgiving, or New Year, our Diwali also comes during that time. So and that time is when we can give a little bit heavy foods. I'm not saying that you indulge in fried foods or cheese or anything like that, but you can give a little bit bigger quantity and heavy foods during this time, and exercise also at that time. Summer is the time when our fire is escaped out the most and we have less digestive fire. At that time, we would want to eat less quantity foods and also easy foods to digest, which means our sticking to our only grains and vegetables and soups kind of a thing.
Thank you. How do you manage irritable bowel syndrome?
Yeah, irritable bowel syndrome is called grahani in Ayurveda, and which means there is this element that is present just underneath our fire. So if we're cooking food in a pot that has hole in it, the food that is being cooked can escape out from the hole. That's really what happens in this grahani kind of situation. So what we do is we try to make this pot stronger. We give herbs in such a way that we can make this pot stronger and help from the situation, the symptoms that are being experienced. It is definitely not a faster solution, but definitely a solution where you can rely on. It will be a longer stretch for treatment, because once it reaches that situation where there is food that is coming out, then a longer protocol is required for that, but it is treatable.
Ashwagandha, is it good to use and when and how to use?
I'm not big on saying that this is good and that's not good. There are a few herbs that have gained uh, popularity, like ashwagandha, triphala, turmeric, and tulsi. These are all few things that they say, especially during COVID times. They're like, you have to take guduchi. Everybody is looking for guduchi magically. So ashwagandha is very good. It is it increases your muscle tone very much. It is very, very good. But if you're already suffering from clogging in your body, if there is already ama in your body, if there is already excessive coagulation in your body, then ashwagandha only adds to it, and you'll not be able to assimilate it, and it will not be helping in growing your muscle. Instead, if you're lean and if you have good digestive fire, ashwagandha is like magic for you. It will be helping grow your muscle capacity very much.
Thank you. Does frozen amla have medicine properties?
We have to get the better that is available here. If there is anybody in this group that is able to grow amla in the United States, please call me. Yeah, that is what's needed for all of us. But we just have to get what we get. Choose the better evil as what we that's what we get here. If you're able to get it from India, I get it from India. I have it shipped from India. That's what I get. If you're able to get it cooked and shipped from India, that's perfect. But we just have to use whatever we have. Yeah, it's definitely not par with the fresh amla that we get in India. Definitely not. But it still has some capacity.
Thank you. What is the ideal time to sleep?
10 p.m. You were probably not listening.
What is the ideal time for breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
Breakfast is definitely ideal to have at about 8:30 in the morning, and light breakfast, right? Anything warm in the morning, like a porridge or oatmeal or upma, these kind of things that you can have very light quantity, little quantity, or just a warm cup of milk with spices is good enough. And lunch is between 10 to 12. That is the time when sun is at its high. So you can have your lunch maybe at 11:30 is when you have your lunch, and your dinner can be between 5:30 to 6:30.
Thank you. Any guidance for young women with PCOS?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very, very important that we follow. You can check my website. There is on my Facebook page. I have there's a video that I spoke extensively about PCOS only. And if you have any further questions, you can ask me. With this limited time, I'm afraid that I'll not be able to give you all the information. But again, like I said, the inflammatory foods is something that you have to look for. And what is it that we're following during our menstrual cycle? How we are, there are certain rules that we have to follow during our menstrual cycle. No exercise, and light foods and sweet foods is what we have to consume during our menstrual cycle. So however we do that during our first days after puberty, that's how our remaining cycles will go forward.
Thank you. WhatsApp University says to drink boiled bay leaf water to control cholesterol. Is that true?
Which university says this?
That's the WhatsApp University.
Oh, WhatsApp. I'm like, which I know there's Google Doctor and WhatsApp University that gives all the information. Yeah, so maybe someone got relief from drinking bay leaf water because bay leaf is a spice, and the coagulation that happened can be decoagulated with bay leaf. But the coagulation is not just because of foods all the time. So it's not necessary that it can help for everybody.
Thank you. What are the best herbs for diabetes?
Like I said, again, there are so many things. So amalaki and amla and turmeric, these two are the best things that are told for prameha. They say agriya dravyas for prameha. Um, Again, always prameha is not diabetes, and always diabetes is not prameha. But like I said, causative factors are very important. They say in the textbook they've written that you have to dig a well, and you have to work with the cows if you have to get rid of your diabetes, which means you have to really work hard. You have to really do a good workout. That's what they said in the textbooks.
Thank you. What is the best oil for cooking?
Ghee.
Other than ghee?
Other than ghee, I would recommend, if you, whatever your ancestors were using, if your ancestors were using peanut oil, you can definitely use peanut oil. If not, coconut oil is also another best, or sesame oil is another thing that you can use.
Is it okay to eat raw vegetables in winter?
Not really. I never advocate, or I should say, Ayurveda does not advocate for eating raw vegetables, because you're using up your own digestive fire to cook the raw vegetable and assimilate it. Why do you not want to use your kitchen fire to cook your vegetable and then help your digestive fire assimilate it? But if you really like it, if you want to, and if you like it, then yes, winter is a good time.
It is said we should not eat yogurt in the night. Is that correct?
Very true. I always say, actually, even in the afternoon, if you're suffering from excessive sinus, even in the afternoon, it's not a good idea. Convert it into a buttermilk and magically it's going to be good. Yeah, no yogurt at night.
Are there any Ayurvedic remedies for allergies?
Allergies, we spoke about it in our talk today, so you can go back and listen to it.
Thank you. Any Ayurvedic remedy for insomnia problem, please?
Yeah, we spoke about that earlier also.
Any suggestions for knee pains?
Knee pains, there are different type of knee pains. If the knee pains are because of osteoporosis, where there is requirement of replenishment because of old age, there's vata accumulation, and that is why knee pains are happening. Then application of oil, especially bala guruchyadi tailam, is something that is very, very helpful. You can apply it and leave it like that overnight. And you can even put like the cotton that I told you on the head. You can apply You can pour the Balaguru Chadi Thailam on that cotton itself and tie it on your knees and leave it like that. Or there are Ayurvedic treatments called knee basti. Janu basti is something that can be done that will help with knee pain. But really start with applying oil on that area. That's going to be very, very helpful.
Thank you.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes.
How do you have any suggestion for to overcome depression?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, depression is something that that can be because of several things, right? It is probably because of several familial conditions, family conditions, or because of the tamasic foods that we are exposed to. Eating foods that are in high prana is very, very important. Eating not tamasic foods or foods that are kept in fridge and you're reheating it, processed foods. Those are not the foods that you would want to consume. When you eat the fresh foods with high prana, that automatically will improve the life force within us. And another thing that we also need to do is pranayama, because right now we are, as a body, we are annamaya kosha. That's what we are able to see. But when depression happens, it is your manomaya kosha. It is the subtle layers of our body that is affected. So to reach that subtle layers of body, it is important that we do subtle practices, which is called the pranayama. It's called an alternate nostril breathing. You can search that up and find out for yourself. But that itself, it will modulate your manomaya kosha so much, because that's the way that you're communicating with that. And it will help you very much. And there are other things as well, but start with this and see if that helps for you. Fresh food and pranayama. I don't want to overwhelm you giving you lots of information also.
Thank you, ma'am.
Absolutely.
What Ayurvedic remedy would you suggest for dandruff? Which shampoo is good for getting rid of dandruff?
There is a shampoo called Scurfol, Scurfol. That is something that is good. But dandruff is, again, because of also internal accumulation that is present. If we are eating excessive food, excessive fatty foods, and there's excessive accumulation in the body, that can lead to dandruff also. So that's a kind of skin condition that we say. Yeah, you can try with the Scurfol and see how that helps for you. But making sure that you observe what kind of foods that you're eating also makes a difference. Not heavy foods, light foods. Focusing on the diet is also very, very important.
Thank you. Is haritake good for constipation?
Yeah, haritaki is wonderful for constipation. But then if you use that for a long time, it is very ruksha, very drying. So it can deplete that area so much, making it dry, and you will need bigger amounts after using it for a long time. So definitely it is good for if you're using it for only certain period of time. If you're using it for continuous purpose, I would not recommend it. Finding out what the root cause is and addressing the root cause is important. But using it for just 2 or 3 days, it's okay. It's wonderful for that.
Any suggestions for thin hair on the head?
I would become a millionaire if I know that. No, just kidding. But yeah, there are several things that are mentioned, right? Eating sesame seeds are best. Sesame seeds along with jaggery is considered to be best. And there are tailas, there are oils that are present with the bhringaraj. Bhringaraj is a herb that is present in Ayurveda that is known to improve hair. You know, hair is actually a mala. It is excretory thing that comes after body makes bones. So the bhringaraj helps with that. Bhringaraj, because it grows, if you know, in India, it grows in regions where the puddles are present. So that's how bhringaraj helps. And amla is also a very good thing that helps with hair growth. And sesame seeds is another thing. And another thing that can also help is yashti madhu tela. You do a nasya of that. There's something called yashti madhu tela. and you do a nasya of that, apply it to your nostrils. That also increases volumes of your hair.
Okay, Manju, I think we're running out of time. There are still some more questions. Do you want to follow up on these questions as videos on your Facebook page later? And do you want to end the session?
Absolutely.
We can something that you want to end the session with? You want to say something to everyone?
Yeah, thank you so much. On a Saturday evening, I know it's already 8:30 in East Coast. Thank you so much for coming in today and all the wonderful questions that you had. That shows that all of us are interested. We all have this internal will wanting to get health, and that is the reason that all of us are here. So taking that one step further, not just, I know it feels good that you have listened to all of this good information, and it also feels like, oh, I know this already. You probably felt that when you're hearing to this. But application of that knowledge is very, very important. If you can apply just one thing that you have heard from this talk today, I'd be very, very happy. And you can surely follow my social media if you have any questions. A lot of these questions I've already answered on my social media. You can definitely go and check it out on Facebook, Ayurhitam, and you'll be able to get answers. And you can reach out to me personally as well if you have any other questions, and I'll be able to answer them. Thank you so much again, Tana, for organizing this wonderful webinar.
Thank you, Manju Kolli. It's a very good informative session for all of us. And if anyone has like any questions like which are not answered today, or if you have any other questions, please feel free to call the phone number what we have it on the screen at this moment, and email her admin@ayurveda.com. Please reach out to her if you have any questions, and also like she mentioned, 15 minutes complimentary consultation if anybody needs any help for the initial knowing of Ayurveda for any of your causes. Thank you all. Thanks from TANA for joining, all of you. Thank you very much, and have a good night.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.